Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to get into a particularly new term that is used mostly incorrectly. It's a term from a movie in the 40s, and we'll get into that. It's called gaslighting, and it is used particularly to replace lying. Now, lying is a verb, whereas gaslighting is a noun, and we'll explain the who, what, why, where, when, and how of this term, how it is used correctly and incorrectly, and how by using it incorrectly, you can actually use the term gaslighting to gaslight somebody. We'll get into the term here. Here we go, gaslighting. Noun, the practice or art of psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity, memory, or powers of reasoning. Now, if you live in an old house, you'll know what a gaslight is because previously you actually had to use a lighter and light your lights before electricity. So the first thing in houses in North America were gas lines. For heating, because heating is more important than light, you use a candle. And when they did that, they would eventually run gas lines in your walls of your house. Not very safe, we know, but this is what people did. I previously owned a house that was built in 1904, and I had gas lines in the house. They were disconnected, obviously. It would stick out of the wall. You would turn a dial to turn the gas on and light it up with a candle or a lighter so you could see what you're doing. So that's where this particular gaslighting term comes from. So gaslighting is a term that comes from a stage play from the UK and a movie from the United States that was made around World War II. You'll understand why this term is very important because it was made around wartime, which gives you a clue as to the manipulative nature of the word itself. So gaslighting is the practice of psychologically manipulating someone into questioning their own sanity, memory, or powers of reasoning. Gaslight is to manipulate someone using psychological methods. Now, where do we hear this recently? I think it was from the military on Canadian citizens, if I'm not wrong. Makes them question their own sanity, memory, and powers of reasoning. In other words, coercion. This is why the term has come up very recently. It is sadly misdiagnosed or misdefined to mean lying, whereas gaslighting is a series of events that are usually escalated, that take time. Now, you can tell by the definition of gaslighting and the actual word manipulation in there, there's a certain type of person that likes to use gaslighting as an action that they do to somehow magically get away with all kinds of bullshit. They will lie and say they're not lying because they think in their head that they're gaslighting, or they're using gaslighting as an excuse. And then they will gaslight and say, I'm not gaslighting, by actually lying, and use each word interchangeably when they don't mean the same thing. And that's what gaslighting is all about. It's a manipulation in order to deceive or lie. So there's one particular individual I'm going to bring up later in this video who's a rat, just a rat fink. And by that interpolation, you should know this week where the rats are coming from. So basically, it's based on this movie here. Gaslight. And let's get into this. So, Gaslight is a movie about this girl from New York who finds out that her aunt in the UK has recently passed away. While she is on a course as a opera singer in Italy, something like that. But her aunt, who was in the UK, was also an opera singer. And while she is studying for 2 weeks in Italy, she meets a guy named Gregory, and they immediately fall in love, want to get married. And Gregory says, "Well, why don't we move into your aunt's house in the UK?" And they get married, they fall in love, and they move into the aunt's house. Now, Gregory seems to not spend a lot of time in the house. He keeps taking off, and the girl, what's her name? So the girl, Rachel, who's played by famous actress Ingrid Bergman, she became a star during this, I guess. The guy's name is Gregory, and the girl's name is Rachel. They move into the house, and he starts effing with her really bad. Accuses her of stealing. It's ultimate projection going on here. So he would leave things around the house, tell her to show her where it is, and she would end up, go into the bathroom, come out, and it's gone. Or he would put things in her purse and show him her putting things into her purse, and then while she's not looking, take it out and say, "Oh." Like an hour later, he'd say, "Oh, can you grab that out of your purse?" And then, freak out on her and make her look like it's driving her mad. But in particular, the way that the gaslighting comes into it is that, he leaves the house an awful lot. And every time he leaves the house, superficial things start happening. It is very strange. So the gas lights start going up and down, flashing and spooking her. You know what I mean? Almost as if the house was haunted. So she starts going around the house every time he leaves, and eventually she finds a letter. So in this letter, it's written by a guy named Serge or Sergius or something like that. And apparently he's the lover of her aunt before she passes away. And she's like, "Well, I have to find this guy. Maybe some of his things are here. I mean, he's never been around. What's going on?" And when she brings this up, the Gregory guy, he freaks out. He goes ballistic, and she's already going half mad, and he wants to drive her mad. And it's really strange, but that's when he starts messing with her, and he does apologize for this particular incident where he gets mad, but his psychological manipulation doesn't end, and the hauntings are get worse. So eventually they have a party, and at the party, it ends up that a police officer from Scotland Yard gets invited, and he notices strange things that this Gregory guy is doing. And he's like, maybe I better keep an eye on this. He doesn't live far away, so he starts following this Gregory guy. And every time he leaves the house, he goes maybe a few doors down and goes into a house there. And he's like, well, what the heck? So eventually, through investigation and everything, it turns out that the Gregory guy is Sergius. He was dating the aunt. The aunt and the niece look extremely alike. And it's a very interesting story. So when he finally the cop goes into this house that Gregory's going into down the street, and he finds out that he already has forms to put this girl away. So he thought when the aunt died that he would get the house, but it went to the niece, so he had to go intercept the niece, drive her crazy, get her committed, so he could get the house. And they found out that in the attic the entire time there was a treasure trove of jewels that he couldn't find after the aunt died. He searched everywhere, but eventually the aunt sewed this treasure trove of jewelry into her opera dress. It's a very interesting thing, and then it's almost like the aunt is giving clues, so she's haunting the niece to tell her that this guy is bad. And between the hauntings and the psychological manipulation that this guy's doing, it drives her all wacky, and the cop eventually catches on anyway. And it turns out that Gregory Sturgis was obviously the murderer the whole time, and he gets arrested at the end. The screenplay, the play that was in the UK, was made during World War II. Basically, I think just before London got bombed by Germany. When the movie came out in 1944, it moved to America because London was rebuilding London. And it was made, and it's very interesting that ever since then, the elite and government agents have been using gaslighting to manipulate the citizenry. So now we're going to get into the Urban Dictionary definition of gaslighting. A form of intimidation or psychological abuse, sometimes called ambient abuse, where false information is presented to the victim, making them doubt their own memory, perception, and quite often their sanity. That's exactly what happened in the movie. The classic example of gaslighting is to switch something around on someone that you know they're sure to notice, but then deny knowing anything about it. To explain that they must be imagining things when they challenge these charges or changes. A more psychological definition of gaslighting is an increasing frequency of systematically withholding factual information from and or providing false information to the victim. So they say that an increasing frequency of systematically withholding facts or providing false information. So lying could be gaslighting, but it doesn't have to be. You'll notice in some really recent TV shows and movies and media and all this, the way that they use the term gaslighting is actually gaslighting. So they are claiming that is purely misinformation and disinformation, like they're throwing it all in that crap, when it's more seditious, to be honest. Like, for example, the term coercion is more psychological. It's a coercive lying, or giving one audience one way of looking at things, another audience another. So I was watching a recent cop show, and basically they're using the term gaslighting to simply mean lying. Okay, so a woman accused a guy of lying to another woman. Instead of just simply saying that he lied, she says, wow, she really is gaslighting the victim here. When they only knew each other for a couple minutes, when it's a systematic overtime abuse and repetition different psychological manipulations, not just one simple lie, in other words. But because in this country, Canada, we have a prime minister who is a drama teacher, he thinks he wants to make some plays. Sometimes the ideas aren't half bad, but he can barely speak on camera nowadays. Everyone knows when he's lying. Everyone knows he's a bad actor, even though he's in drama. When he was a teacher, he's a bad teacher. When he wants to play a role, he sucks at everything. The shark there, Kevin O'Leary, says he's the worst manager and the worst CEO that we've ever had in history. The worst. He said it like 10 times. So when you get these people with no vision and they can't create, they just look horrible. Like, you could tell when an actor is an actor and when they're not. I'm going to give you a fantastic example right now of his horrible, coercive acting. Oh my God. This is incredibly bad.
Omar, it's time.
I just can't. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's horrible. The guy just wants to be involved in it. I'm the greatest spy in the world. I'm the greatest prime minister in the world. I'm the greatest Indian dancer in the world. I'm the greatest ally in the world. Dude, you're just horrible at everything. Everything. It's so sad. And somebody needs to tell you, these people need to stop being yes people. Yes men and yes women. It's surrounded by too many women. I don't know what it is they're not willing to say. Dude, stop, please. Oh my God. Just horrible stuff. And that's proof that he's horrible at everything right there. So don't be deceived. I can't. I just can't. So as it goes, most politicians are gaslighters, liars, deceivers. The ultimate Satan in the room. So the low-level gaslighters are used by the high-level gaslighter. So you have the gaslighter of gaslighters gaslighting. And if you understand, they try to muddy the waters, and that's what it's all about, is muddying the waters. You use gaslighting, you use deception, you use lying, and you interchange those words. But, you do use all of them. You just interchange them and define them as not themselves. Or when you're using gaslighting as a particular deception technique, you say to the press, well, I wasn't lying, because you're gaslighting. Or when you lie to the press, you say, oh, I don't gaslight I wasn't gaslighting there. That's ridiculous, because you're lying. And you use these words interchangeably in a circle, or I wasn't deceiving when you're gaslighting. You know what I mean? So you use these, even though as a pocket, as a trident. So by using Baphomet's trident as the multi-sexual trans demon, you use that trident of gaslighting, lying, and deception to sword and shield. And this is what new politics is all about recently. So don't be deceived, don't be gaslit, and don't be lied to. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. We're going to have some more videos out very shortly. I'm just working on those. Have a good day.